hotspot, Greece.
Greece has requested a hefty loan package from both the EU and the International Monetary Fund.
The first ground invasion in the financial war happened here a year ago, when the Greek government swapped Greek assets for a bailout from the Troika.
But in order to get the help that it needs, government officials in Athens had to make some drastic changes.
So in May of 2010, the Greeks signed an agreement with the IMF that allowed them to collect debts, and for that right, they gave as collateral every single asset in the entire country.
Everything. Not only we collateralized all Greek Republic assets, but we also signed that in the meantime, if we need additional money, we cannot go to ask for money somewhere else.
So
we are obliged to ask money to them. We became their slaves.
Here is in English and in Greece also.
Okay.
This is the international law agreement between Greece and the Troika, directly from the Greek parliament. All right? In one of the articles, they say that if we are unable to repay the debts, they allow them unconditionally the right to come here in Greece and confiscate everything. Our Parthenon, our Olympia, Delphi, our islands, the petroleum, anything.
Wow, what a bargain. The IMF has properties like this, part of the Acropolis. It's a bit of a fixer-upper, though. It needs a little spackle, a little upgrade. I'm sure they could do some development here and improve it a lot, maybe even put a McDonald's or a Starbucks over there and get some income generated. But it's a great asset, just needs a little work. Well, what exactly are the policies that the IMF is already engaged in?
Well, the policies are austerity measures, as most people already know. They've cut wages, pensions. They've raised taxes, direct and indirect taxes. A lot of people are being laid off, unemployed. The unemployment rate is above 15% now. Inflation has gone up over 4.5%. Stores are closing down. The health sector is experiencing a lot of problems because of lack of funding. They don't have substantial essential material like alcohol and bandages and stuff like that.
So when you say they're cutting wages, from what to what?
They've cut, in some sectors, they've cut up to about 30%.
What are the numbers exactly, just to give people a frame of reference?
Well, the basic wage in Greece was about, the monthly basic wage was about 750 gross euros. Now it's gone down to 500 and something. It's quite a drop.
Greece has quit from all its rights due to national sovereignty over all its assets and from all its human beings. Exactly. So the human beings are equal for them to our to the assets.
Okay, the physical assets
Yes.
of the country
Yes.
have been conceded
Yes.
to the Troika.
Yes, exactly. Illegally, yes, exactly. Totally illegally and consciously illegally, intentionally illegally.
Premeditated
Exactly.
asset larceny.
Exactly.
This is not anything different than a state-of-the-art, let's say, tailor-made lending program. We call that mnemonio here in Greece. That is a
I'm sorry, you call that what?
Mnemonio, in Greek we say that. This is a memorandum of understanding signed with the lenders of the Greek government debt. This is exactly what it is. With that, we give power to all the lenders of the Greek country, of the Greek government bonds, to write guarantees, hypothecs on the Greek property, on all the Greek assets, tangible and intangible, in the future Greek revenues, on everything what this country has.
The bailout was a Trojan horse. Athens was now financially occupied.
It would be a mistake to think that the bailout is actually a bailout of Greece. Greece is a write-off.
it is clearly said in that article that the 110 billion euros they loan us, they are gone totally to the foreign banks.
The 110 billion euros comes into the Greek system, but
Yes.
and then immediately leaves
Exactly.
to pay off the
Exactly.
foreign interest.
So basically, the bailout is actually a bailout of the ECB itself and the bailout of the banks in Europe.
But before Greece became a write-off, it was a client of Goldman Sachs.
In 2001,
Yes.
Greece joined the euro.
Yes.
Now we know that the conditions of the joining was the product of an enormous fraud
Yes.
perpetrated by who?
Goldman Sachs.
Who?
By Goldman Sachs.
What did they do? What did Goldman Sachs do?
They hide a vast amount of our national debt.
In order to make it look like the country was
yes,
in better shape than
exactly,
it was. And then they
exactly.
joined the euro.
Yes.
And what happened to
We are unprepared financially to do this in respect to our very low productivity.
And so Greece was thrown into the same currency ring as heavyweight exporter Germany. Greece buckled. Its debts grew. Goldman's complex derivatives grew even faster. The swaps begat more swaps, begat more complex derivatives, begat more Goldman fees.
This is a racket that's going on, isn't it?
This is a pure financial racket. Exactly. This is a well-organized criminal plan that was executed in a very, very smart way here in Greece, because in this market, politicians who are governing this country, they don't have any idea of what markets mean. They don't know how to follow the markets. They don't know how to regulate the markets, and this gives the opportunity to all these kind of institutions to manipulate the government debt and to create this huge problem what Greece has today.
The revelation of Goldman Sachs' hidden Greek debts was followed by rating agency downgrades of Greek debt, was followed by rising spreads on its debt, was followed by naked short selling of its bonds.
As the EU moves to protect its member states by trying to find out how speculators bet against Greece and profited.
And what these people did, how in America in 2008 they create CDO, credit collateralized debt obligations, and they create CDO on the mortgage market. Today they are creating CDOs on the public debt. This is what is happening. Public debt today is becoming a CDO. On this CDO, CDS contracts are getting issued from the same people who create the same crisis in the United States.
Loaded down with debt, Greece now became a prime target for a financial takedown by Goldman's other clients, like John Paulson, a hedge fund manager who had made billions shorting Goldman Sachs' toxic CDOs.
What do you say now when you hear the stories about Goldman Sachs having a meeting with hedge fund managers like John Paulson here in Athens, talking about ways to destroy the country using
Yes.
weapons of mass financial terrorism
Yes.
like derivatives and naked
Yes.
short selling,
Yes.
purposely, like they discussed in Iceland before they destroyed that country.
Yes.
What do you think about this when you hear that
Yes.
two bankers colluding to steal your assets for nothing? How does that make you feel?
We must prevent the illness, not to cure the illness afterwards. So we have the duty to kill them before they kill us.
If this was in their constitution, then the Greek people had failed in their duty to prevent the occupation of their nation by the armed wing of the global bankers, the IMF.
So the question now is, will the Greek people throw the IMF out? It says right here on the wall, take back measures, take back the IMF measures.
We're talking about families making Molotov bombs at home.
Okay, now you're a medical doctor,
Yes.
you're an oncologist. You're a
Yes.
man with advanced mathematical degrees.
Yes.
And recently you were in the street
Yes.
protesting
Exactly.
in front of the...
Or in front of the president of democracy, Carlos Papoulias.
And what were you saying in your protest? What were you demanding?
I was shouting to them that they are traitors.
Now, did you also suggest that these traitors should be hung?
Exactly.
First the Arab world, then Madrid, now Athens.
Thousands of Greeks have gathered in Athens for their largest protest so far. Protesters call the government thieves, angry that jobs have been lost and wages have been cut.
I think the revolution coming, it's the revolution in the ideas or the thinking for Greek people.
If they invade your economic life, they invade your economic dignity.
The people have to rise up and fight for their rights.
Before Goldman Sachs, before the IMF, there were the three ruling families of Greece that ate the nation.
Our double occupation. First by Troika, and secondly by our own country, who has occupied Greece in favor of foreign powers.
June 29, 2011. The Greek parliament passed the harsh austerity measures demanded by the Troika.
340 billion euros in debt. The country could only secure the next instalment of a 110 billion euro loan with its passing of the plan.
The Greek people would be willing to make any type of sacrifice to save their country. I'm sure they would. But they don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. This is a death spiral. You don't need to be an expert nor have a degree in economics. You just need common sense to see that this is not working. This plan is not working.
Riots on the streets of Athens again. Governments across the world are now very worried that Greece may default on its huge debt.
In fact, the plan was going exactly as planned.
There's tear gas everywhere.
The ruling elite plunders a nation with help of big loans from Western banks. These loans are transferred to the IMF, who occupies the nation in the name of aid.
Sounds like revolution out there, huh?
Yes, it's the acrid smell of revolution. It's happening right here. The Troika, the IMF, the EU, the ECB are trying to steal this country. And the people are saying, wait a minute, we don't want to have our stuff stolen. So the ultimate goal seems to be kicking the IMF out.
For most people, yes, but don't forget that the mainstream media here in Greece are saying, oh my goodness, if the IMF didn't come to our rescue, we would be bankrupt, and bankruptcy is a bad thing. This is what they've been saying to other people.
Default is never an option in today's financialized so-called capitalism. The assets must always be stripped for pennies on the dollar. But this wasn't always the case.
In 1934, we declared bankruptcy as a Greek state in 1934. And in 1939, Greece was under the rule of the dictator Ioannis Metaxas. And he, Metaxas, sent to the borrowers, French and Belgian banks, that we don't have money to repay the loans, because if we pay you, would deprive our nation from its basic needs. And so we have the duty first to protect our people, not the borrowers,
so today,
the lenders.
So today Greece has loans outstanding that have been imposed on them under very dubious circumstances. Mm-hmm. And according historically, the answer to that has been to default.
Exactly, default. And the bankers took the Greece to the International Court of Justice
In what year?
In 1939.
And how did they do?
And this is the decision.
What was the decision?
The decision was in favor of Greece, and it says that Greece has the duty and the right and the duty first to cover the needs of its own people rather to pay their debts. So they vindicate the Greece not to pay even one drachma to them.
Now, according to a case right here in Greece in 1939, the country was able to default on debts because it was proven that to pay the debts would cause hardship for the people. And they won that case, and they defaulted on those debts, and the country recovered. So why can't the country simply default on these debts, have whatever period of reconstruction might be necessary, and then continue on, but with their sovereignty? They've already had the precedent for it.
Because there's no political will to do so.
In a world where bondholders can never lose, the people can never win. Democracy is out of the question. But the people of Greece are taking matters into their own hands.
Dr. Tabras, you're an economist. You're suing Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and all the derivative dealers, how they relate to this crisis. Tell us about it.
Okay, the issue started 1.5 years ago. We presented that on April 2010, and we charge for fraud not only Goldman Sachs, as you said, JP Morgan, etc., but we charge all physical persons who represent investment banks, other kind of institutions, CDS traders, naked short sellers, all the people who were involved in one way or in the other in the manipulation of the Greek government debt.
If the government were honest, would they issue some kind of arrest warrant for these bankers that are committing these acts of financial tyranny?
No, the question is why our judicial system does not act.
Yes.
On its own, and even more after my lawsuit. Why they don't act? They are passively see the troika, the conquerors, the occupiers to come forwards, come and left Greece without doing anything.
When there's an occupying force in a country, this technique of no pay or boycott has been effective. Would you say that the country of Greece is now being occupied by this foreign entity, the IMF?
The non-pay movement reflects the resistance to this regime that has been established, and not only to the resistance, let's say, to the strict economical consequences of the regime, but the resistance of the attack against our dignity as humans.
What is the future of the Greek economy, according to your estimates?
Well, it's being taken over by outside entities, outside forces like the IMF. So the Greek economy going forward is the property of the IMF. If it improves, the Greek people won't benefit, the IMF will benefit.
Because they have terrorized us. They have violated our dignity, our individual and national identity, dignity. And we don't know, we are scared about our future, what is going on to come next.
Just about, we tried to get in through this way last night, but it was like being reborn through a glass womb into a post-revolutionary Athens. This is what happened last night.
There has to be a regime change. It's just that they don't trust any other politician. This is why I think that the only solution that the Greek people have is to follow the Icelandic example, which is put together a people's party and run in the election. Put citizens in parliament. This is going to make a major difference.
Well, look at the example of Iceland, for example. They didn't pay back the terrorist bankers. The economy had 1 or 2 years of collapse, basically, and now it's growing. The Icelandic economy is growing, and it's doing quite well. Same thing for Greece. Don't pay the debt. The economy will go through a year or two of recalibration of a collapse, but from that will be growth. But it'll be growth shared by the people of Greece. You'll still have your sovereignty, because right now you're losing your sovereignty. You're becoming a vassal state of global bankers.
There's not much recourse that people have other than to rise up and seek regime change and to insist on default for all that fake debt that they're being asked to pay for. There's only one solution, that you have to default on that fake debt.
The planning for the revolution, it's ready to make revolution, but after revolution, what is?
That's always the question, isn't it?
Yes, yes.